All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror After Dark podcast in the sack with JT. Now, this is not a horror film, but I was just trying to find the perfect movie that I just would think of or see while streaming, and that's the issue. There's so many streaming services, and with just Tubi alone has thousands of movies. I can't figure out what the fuck to watch and talk about anymore. Like, it's getting to that point that I really have to, expand out of my favorite movies and the more popular ones. So this is not a horror film. So I figured I'd do this as a podcast and then have the Black Coat's Daughter video out tomorrow. So, The Jackal from 1997. Now, this is directed by Michael Caton Jones, who I know did Rob Roy, I think before this movie, right? Like 94, 95. And also did, what was the other big movie he did? And it doesn't matter. But this stars Bruce Willis, Richard Gere, Sidney Poitier. I forget the Russian actress in this, but she does such a great job. If anyone hasn't seen this movie, it's based off a novel, and it also had a film adaptation of that novel, and this is kind of like a take on that movie. But Richard Gere is an IRA sniper who's imprisoned, and in order to help the FBI track down Bruce Willis's character, who's a hitman who's just known as the Jackal. And just the disguises on Bruce Willis, on the Jackal in this movie, how they say that like he has no face because he constantly changes his appearance, and he does it really well, first of all, convincingly, and he does it really fast. He's just able to change identities like at will, which makes him a very scary motherfucker. And this movie has a favorite scene of mine with Jack Black, a young Jack Black, with the insane gun that the Jackal has and tests it out on him. But let's talk The Jackal from 1997. This was, once I thought of this movie, I said, that's it. That's what I'm watching. Perfect choice. Let's talk it. And funny enough, this movie is not that critically praised, both when it came out, and I don't really know the consensus nowadays, but it absolutely works for me, mostly for Richard Gere's performance and Bruce Willis's performance alone. But I think this is just such a great action thriller film. Very underrated, unfortunately. But it opens up with the whole montage of the fall of the Soviet Union and everything. And the soundtrack in this movie. The score is great too, but I mean, like, the actual music used in this, it is such a good soundtrack. This is the movie that actually introduced me to Massive Attack, with the song Dissolve Girl in this movie during a montage later on. That was the first time I ever heard a Massive Attack song, and I went on to become a big fan of them. So that's another reason I have a lot of nostalgia with this film. So we get a great opening scene where the FBI is working with, I don't know what it is, it's in Moscow. I don't know what government agency they use over there, but Moscow police or of some sort. And they have a joint operation to try to take down this Russian mob boss. And they go in saying, you're under arrest. He doesn't give himself up at all, pulls a gun on the FBI guy, and then, J.K. Simmons is also in this, a small role, if I remember correctly, but always great seeing him. And Koslova is the Russian woman's name, Major Koslova. She ends up shooting the mob boss, because he was not giving himself up. And the FBI director goes up to her and says, listen, it's never easy taking a life, but you saved mine, so thank you. And she doesn't seem to take it too badly. I mean, I'm sure she's had to do this a few times in the past, at least. Another great scene, right after that opening one, where we see the brother of the Russian mob boss who was murdered, and he's fucking intimidating. And he ends up asking one of the guys, like, all right, how many FBI agents and, the police did you kill? And he says, they're cops. We didn't stand a chance. He repeats himself, how many of them did you kill? And he says, none. And then he takes this axe and he's just casually walking and talking, and he takes his axe and just buries it to this guy's head, and he falls forward. And then he goes on to say, like, I love this guy. Like, he was a good friend and a businessman, and just imagine what I can do to somebody I hate. And then they end up declaring war, this Russian mob, on the FBI, which leads us to our first scene with the Jackal, where the brother of the mob boss goes and has a meeting with him and asks if he can kill this FBI agent. Now, he shows him a picture, but they purposely don't show it. And then he puts it in the shredder. And then he asks what the price is.
How much?
American dollars. All cash, of course. Half now, half upon completion. $70 million.
Why not?
And who knows how much fucking money this Russian mob boss has. He has no problem throwing $70 million his way. There's just great dialogue in the scenes in this film. Oh, and it's the MVD, which is the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Russia, the agency that Koslova works for. I just love how calculated and meticulous the Jackal is in this movie. When he's at the airport and he's eyeing this guy to try to steal his identity, and as soon as the guy gets up to get another drink, he snatches his passport and his identification, and then you see him getting a fake passport and a fake ID to now become this guy's identity. He's just very cool, calm, collected with everything that he does in this movie. Then you see the Jackal go into, I'm not sure what this place is, but this older guy he meets with definitely is in the crime world and knows what he's doing. He's talking finances with him and to set up bank accounts. And then he goes in and talks to this computer to try to find his weapon.
Man portable.
Compact, vehicle-mounted unit.
What caliber?
No smaller than 7.62.
Available. Yugoslav 20mm 19/55 cannon.
Too heavy.
Available.
The gun puts out 1,400 rounds per minute. And I think it's like 3,000 meters or 3,500 meters that you can reach with the range. Just unreal type of a weapon. And what do you know? Only 200 grand for a weapon of just unbelievable destruction. So they end up capturing one of the workers for the Russian mob boss, and they're torturing the shit out of him, trying to get information. And he's saying the Jackal, that's who's hired for this assassination attempt. And they find out that it is the director of the FBI who is the target. And they say that they don't even know if the Jackal is a real person or if he exists at all. That there's been a few assassinations that have been attributed to him, but they've never been able to prove any of that or that he even exists. And I think that's awesome. It really shows how great this guy is at just being a fucking murderer and getting away with it every time. Then he ends up going to Montreal. He looks completely different. He's got long blonde hair with sunglasses. And he's there for fishing. He has like a nice proper shirt on. It's great how he just morphs how he looks throughout this film. And then the very next scene, he looks different again, like doing another purchase for his whole assassination plan here, everything he needs. And he looks fatter. He has like curly, darker hair. It's really well done. So they narrow down to 6 people who may have seen who the Jackal actually is. And 4 of them are dead. One is, I don't know, some other country that they can't get in touch with them for some reason. I don't know. That's kind of stupid. But the 6th one is Richard Gere's character, Declan Mulqueen, the IRA sharpshooter who's locked up for like 20 to 25 years. So they're hoping that they can get his assistance in identifying the Jackal in exchange for a reduced sentence. And I just love Richard Gere, and I love his entire portrayal of Declan in this movie. Just the Irish accent, his smugness, and the fact that he's charming too at the same time. And he's funny as hell sometimes when they offer the initial deal to him, and he tells J.K. Simmons to shove it, and then he walks away, and then he apologizes to Koslova and says, "Sorry for the language, but I've been in prison." That's funny. And then such a great line from him when he's talking to the FBI guy and he's arguing for his freedom, saying, what would it take, for you to help us? And he says, I want to make sure my wife is kept safe and her location unknown, and I want to be sent home a free man. And that he claims that he was fighting in a war. Even Russia has the troops that go home after the treaty's signed. He just wants his freedom. And they say it's out of the question, it's not going to happen. And then they all start walking away. And then he starts saying, so the Jackal's after your FBI director. He better get his affairs in order because nobody can help him except for me. And then he just says, I've met him. And they all turn around. And he says, oh yeah, didn't I mention it? That's such a great line. Now, I never claim to know shit about stuff I don't know anything about. But it's kind of hard for me to believe that they would let an IRA sharpshooter out of custody to go with them and try to help them track down the Jackal, and also to go visit his ex-wife, Isabel, so he can just see her while they go to talk to her, because supposedly she has also seen the Jackal. I don't know if this would ever happen. I mean, is it a little far-fetched? I think so. If somebody knows to the contrary, if this has happened and stuff, I'm sure it has, but just the way that it's handled in this movie, it just doesn't seem likely this would ever happen. But it doesn't hinder my enjoyment at all of this film. Alright, here's another thing that is a little stupid. But, first of all, Jack Black, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I think he's done some good stuff in the past. School of Rock, I think, is probably his best performance, just because he was able to be his own wacky self. But I like him in some of these earlier roles, like in this film, even though it's a minor part. And in Orange County, as the brother, I really like him in that, and that's such an underrated comedy. But the Jackal goes to him, fuck if I know his name, he's Jack Black, goes to him to get the arm for this big-ass gun he's using for the assassination, to rotate 270 degrees and be made of titanium and stuff. So he goes to Jack Black. Of all people, I mean, this guy, is this really the best there was? It's just building an arm that could move and pivot and stuff. He was the best. That the Jackal, this legendary hitman, he doesn't know anybody higher up that's more of a professional to trust this guy. I don't know. I mean, he does end up killing him, so it doesn't matter. So I guess he did. I just answered my own question there. But just the fact that he goes to him, maybe that was the plan. Yeah, maybe he went to him because he's so disposable and he was able to just take him out afterwards. Makes sense. So I retract my stupid statement on the Jackal going to Jack Black. That's hard to say. And those listening to the premiere, we're only a half hour into a 2-hour movie, so be careful. And if I may say so myself, I think that's very nice of me that I say that sometimes. I don't have to do that. I don't have to tell you shit about how much longer you gotta sit here. So consider it a nice gesture every time I do. But then we get the scene where Declan gets to see his wife Isabella, and she also gets questioned by Koslova about when she saw the jackal. And I like how she says that, like, Declan at least had a passion. He was fighting for a cause. And the jackal's just cold and evil as fuck. Like, no emotion from this guy. To try to distinguish, even though they're both fucking murderers. I mean, it's kind of like they're trying to justify Richard Gere's character's actions in this, Declan's actions, but like it's a weird fine line, but I can see where they're going with it. There is a difference. And then she ends up giving him a key to a safety deposit box and $10,000 cash that friends of his left her years ago, just in case he ever showed up there. And he gave his word that he wouldn't flee. But if he feels like they're definitely going to throw him back in prison when this is all over, then he'll use the key then. If I was him, I'd get the fuck out of there so quick. Screw the First Lady, that's who the actual assassination attempt is planned on in the end, right? I'm pretty sure it's the First Lady, not the FBI director. So he threw him off with that. But I love all the dialogue between Declan and Isabella. And you can see they obviously still love each other, but she's happy with the husband that she loves and two beautiful kids. So she's as happy as she can be. But obviously they still care immensely for each other. And I think they both do a great job in that scene. Declan is with Koslova. She finally gives up her first name, Valentina. And you can see she's warming up to him a little bit. And then you see just how smart this woman is. And she says to him, whatever Isabella gave you, at the end there, I hope you don't use it until after our business is done. So even right there, she's pretty much telling him, stick around, help us, and she doesn't care if he flees after that. So I like how they plant that seed right there, and I like how they show her opening up to him a little bit. So they bring Declan in a room full of FBI, and a lot of them just don't believe this guy is that dangerous, the jackal. And he goes on to give a great little monologue.
This man is no clown. He knows all your moves back to front. Right now, you got a name. That's all you got. He's got a timetable, and as to making mistakes, he spent 20 years in a trade that doesn't forgive error. You think he's the one who's up against it? It's the other way around.
And they keep saying he's just one person, but I think it's a cool little detail that Declan throws in, that he knows of his past MOs and like his tricks, that he says that he'll probably have 3 identifications on him and 1 in a safety deposit box somewhere. That's a cool little detail. And during that conversation, we see the jackal. Now he has jet black hair and a Fu Manchu. It's not like a Fu Manchu. It's not that long. But like a curvy, thick mustache. And he's scouting out the location where the First Lady's going to give her a speech. Which I think it's a chemotherapy unit that they're adding to a children's hospital. So she's going to be giving the speech there, as is the FBI director. And he's taking pictures of the location, and this is about 2 weeks before the speech is to be given and the wing opens. Now, there's a scene here that I remember there being some controversy over, and remember, this is 1997. So we weren't as progressed with homosexuality as we are today. But there's a scene in a gay bar, and the jackal, looking completely different again, and he's flirting with this guy and asks for his information, for his card, and the guy's saying, you're not going to call, and then he leans in and he kisses him. And I remember getting some blowback. Fuck those people, man. Come on. Like, I hate when stuff like that is criticized in a movie. It makes complete sense for the jackal's character because he really just assumes a new identity. So why would that be out of the realm of possibility? To take on that type of persona too, just to throw off the FBI and everybody that's been trying to ID this guy for years. It makes sense. You want to throw off your identity and change it as much as possible in as many different ways as possible. Then the Jackal is back to the fat identity, for lack of better terms, to pick up the shipment. I'm guessing it's the gun, but he ends up going into an internet cafe. Remember dial-up, and remember when they had those places, like especially in the city, that you can go in and use a computer and use the dial-up internet? Damn, man, that's a long time ago. But whatever, he goes in there and he gets in contact with somebody and says that his shipment was compromised. And not by the police, but by the hijackers. And then I vaguely remember this. He sees the people outside. I forget what happens with that. Oh, that's right. No, this is a great scene. It's very, I don't know about a lot of this. It's very convenient, but it's still really cool. I mean, action movies and action thrillers like this, they don't have to make sense. But he's followed by I'm guessing these are the hijackers, unless that was just the message on the computer or how his shipment was compromised, and these are just people trying to kill him. I'm pretty sure these are the hijackers it was referring to, though. And he ends up speeding down into a, underground garage, parking garage. And this is the convenient part. I mean, they park outside the garage and get out and walk down, giving him enough time to race to the bottom of the garage. And earlier in the movie we saw him painting this specific van, and it's white, and he has just enough time to spray this car down really fast and get rid of all the white paint to make it blue, which it was painted underneath, change the license plates. Then he and this is all done purposely, I'm guessing. That's how I interpret this, because he knows that the paint is dripping, like, towards the sewer, and that the guys are going to see that. So he sprays some chemical on the hatch of the trunk to open it. And again, conveniently, this guy goes to open that trunk, and instead of any of the passenger doors, the driver's seat, anything, he goes right for that handle, touches it, and it paralyzes him in some way, and then he grabs his throat and he falls over and dies. It's a cool scene, despite being, very plot convenient and just there to look cool, I guess. But it does. Yeah, and then we get the best scene in this movie. And now this makes me think, when I said earlier that why he would pick somebody like Jack Black to do this, but he probably planned to kill him the entire time. I still think that was the plan, but there's a little scene before they go to test the gun where Jack Black is trying to blackmail him, basically, because the deal was he has to hand over all the plans, the scraps, everything to do with him building this base. And now he's trying to say it's worth a bonus of $100,000 when their initial deal was $40,000. So he's trying to blackmail him here. So then I thought, is that the reason he kills him here? And maybe he didn't plan on killing him, but again, no. This guy is a professional in every sense of the word. He's not leaving a guy like this alive to tell any tale. But the whole scene when he's testing the gun out, and he holds up the cigarettes, and then his arm gets blown off, oh, that's so good.
Guess the automatic sighting works.
Yeah. Thought I was about to sprawl.
Run.
What do you mean?
I mean, run.
Hold out that pack of cigarettes!
How do you not love this scene?
I told you it was off.
And do you see the size of these shells that comes out of this gun? Like, this, you're not nicking an earlobe with this gun. You're blowing apart a head scanner style. So the Jackal ends up buying a boat, and brilliant decision and move here too. He makes a call, or receives a call. I think he makes the call. Doesn't matter. And receives the information that the FBI is tracking him in Montreal and that they have an Irishman with them, and says it's Declan Mulqueen, and the Jackal and Declan have a past. And he finds this information out, but he still says the mission's a go. But great idea to make this call in international waters or in an ocean, where it can't be tracked as easily, or if at all, back then. And I just love how Declan puts everything together, like tracking the Jackal for the FBI and the Russians. He's doing all the work, saying that on the Great Lakes, that is there any border patrol there for people with boats? And they say no, it's not really enforced. And then he thinks of the great idea, is there any like gatherings or festivals or anything like that going on? And they say, yeah, there is. And it starts from some town and goes all the way to Chicago. So this is a way for him to transport this weapon and still blend in. Like he's not the only boat coming in. Just great deduction skills. I love the shot when the Jackal and Declan see each other for the first time in who knows how long, and they have the shootout, and Koslova comes and starts shooting at the Jackal, and then he ends up escaping. And then I totally forgot about this, that there's a rat in the FBI, and that's who the Jackal was on the phone with while he was sailing on the boat, and gave him the information about Declan, because he says to the FBI guy that he was expecting me. Like, he wasn't surprised at all. So you got somebody on the inside who's feeding him information. And this guy doesn't believe him, of course. So they figure out who the rat is after they have a recording of a phone call that was placed leaking information. And no wonder why I didn't remember, because it's no one important to the plot. It's just some random member of the FBI or the Russian team or something who stands up and says, it's my voice, and then they escort him out. Like, I don't know. There's no reason to throw that in there, really. J.K. Simmons' character, I forget his name in this, but they say Witherspoon. He told him not to put Isabella's contact information and her address or anything about her in the report. And he ended up doing it because he's a by-the-books asshole. So now the Jackal knows where Isabella lives, and Koslova is over there, and this sucks, man, in this movie when she gets killed. Then we get another great scene, and I forget the song. It's by Agent some word with a P. It was a famous song back then, but it goes blasting off on the radio outside, and then the Jackal's underneath. This is at Isabella's house. He's underneath the stairs, and he shoots upwards and kills one of the FBI agents. And J.K. Simmons is Witherspoon, by the way, but he's in this movie a lot more than I remember him being. And he ends up getting shot twice in the head. Then Valentina Koslova ends up getting shot. And it sucks, man. And then just what he says to her. And says, you're going to be dead in 20 minutes. But if you take your hand off, if the suffering gets too much, take your hand off, you'll be dead in 5. And tell Declan, this is kind of stupid. When he says tell Declan he can't protect his woman. And the fact that Declan puts that together to figure out he's also meaning the First Lady being the actual target, I don't know. That's a little bit of a stretch. I don't know how I feel about that. But that's how he figures out who the actual target is. So it's not the director of the FBI, it's the First Lady, because Declan can't protect his women. Oh, and then he hangs out at the apartment of the gay guy that he kissed earlier in the movie and took his info, and they have a police sketch on the TV that It looks like him, just with the long, like, shaggy hippie hair, and the guy sees it, and he looks at him, and he just blows this guy away, too. This guy gives zero shits to Jackal. Now, the last half hour of this movie, like, from the assassination attempt, it gets a little too stupid at times. They put together that it's the First Lady, conveniently, as I said. And then minutes and minutes and so long goes on, and she's allowed to take the stage. It's almost like something that happened in real life recently. So maybe it's not that much of a critique. Maybe it's not out of the realm of possibility. But it seems like so much time goes by. They couldn't just get on police radio and radio all of the police, and it's the First Lady, so there's Secret Service there and everything. They couldn't just send a radio signal out saying, get the First Lady out of there. Security breach. Come on, man. I mean, this, like I said, all of this is stupid, but it's still entertaining. I know this is going to probably sound terrible, but it's the truth. They try to explain that, everything I just said of how much time goes by saying, don't get her off the stage. And they say the Secret Service wants to know what's going on. First of all, that would never happen. They would get her out of there immediately. Whether they tell them what's going on or not, there's obviously something going on. So they would never let her get on. But the reason Declan says don't tell them is because they'll get her off the stage and he'll end up shooting into the crowd. Now, yeah, of course, you never want to see anyone get fucking murdered like that. But the Secret Service's job is to protect who they are meant to protect. In this case, it's the president's wife. So that's their main goal and concern, is protect her life. It doesn't matter if he's going to shoot into the crowd. It's get her to safety immediately. Fuck everybody else. That's their job. Unfortunately, I mean, they should put out, that information and evacuate the place. But first and foremost, their job is going to be get the First Lady to safety. And the fact that they don't do that here is, again, it's just unbelievable. Also, you have Bruce Willis walking around in disguise as a cop. Walking around talking to other cops. If a gay man could see, they have the police sketch. If that random gay guy could see that police sketch and know that it's him, even in a disguise, wouldn't the police be able to tell that it's him? None of that makes any sense either. Yeah, if you analyze this movie too much on the logical side, like I always do, this whole ending is so stupid. The fact also that they let this IRA sharpshooter, who they've just been letting walk around without handcuffs willy-nilly throughout this whole movie, they let him take the shot at the minivan that has the gun that Bruce Willis is a second away from firing at the First Lady, who is still on stage. They would have anybody else on that sniper team with the FBI take that shot, not this guy who they took out of prison that worked for the IRA. And then, after that bullet rings out, none of the Secret Service jump on the First Lady or try to get her out of there, except for the black FBI guy that we've been with this whole movie. He runs and gets her out of the way. There is zero protection for this woman. It's the president's wife in this movie, right? It's the First Lady. None of the ending is good here. So the Jackal's assassination attempt has been thwarted. I mean, hey, he gets to keep 35 mil, so he's not doing too bad if he would have survived this. But he ends up trying to escape turns into a different person immediately and tries to blend in, and Declan follows him into the train tunnels. Then we get more stupidity I completely forgot about. When the two trains are coming and Declan is holding on to the little stoplight in between the two trains and they're just missing him on both sides. That is so dumb. I can't believe they approved that for this movie. And then the Jackal ends up, he's going through the subway, he's just shooting people. He's very unprofessional at this point. And he ends up taking a hostage and trying to negotiate with Declan. And then he doesn't realize that Isabella comes up right next to him and shoots him through the throat. And he falls to the ground. And then he lifts his gun up like he's still alive. He's going to try to shoot. And Declan fires like 5 shots into him and he's dead. I do like the ending scene of this movie, though, where Detective Sidney Poitier, I forget his character's name, and Declan are walking, and he's telling him that, you know, his pardon was refused, but he'll get minimum security. And then he ends up letting him go. He tells him, I'm going to go get coffee. I'll be a half hour. And says that I know a professional like you. If you had a Dropbox like the Jackal and a wad of cash, a clean passport, we would never find you. And thanks him for everything. And then goes for a half hour to get coffee and lets Declan go. And the end. It's very stupid at times, but there are a lot of great aspects of this movie, which I've highlighted throughout this. So that's The Jackal from 1997. I don't know. This was just the movie that hit the spot. So The Black Coat's Daughter, that's tonight to watch, and I will have a video out tomorrow sometime, probably in the evening premiere for that video. Until then, I hope everyone's having a good morning, afternoon, or night. I will talk to you all soon. Take care, guys.